the more we know about the other folks who are doing things, the greater our belief is that we can make it happen. If I get to talk to a whole bunch of millionaires and I realize they're not that much different than me, then the chance of becoming a millionaire is that much better. Okay, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. We in 2024 are interviewing 100 Black men who are doing stuff and making a difference in their communities. And so today I have Stanford, and he is just another person that you are going to want to watch. You're not only going to want to subscribe and hit the bell or do whatever you got to do so you get all of these episodes. You're going to want to listen to every single minute of our podcast today. And so, when we think of, I love to ask people right before I get on recording with you guys is, what are you excited about? What's you most excited about in life right now? And Stanford told me it is about making a difference. And
absolutely.
Absolutely. And there are, what we find, and I was telling Kenny in the last episode, and you guys will be able to watch this, you're going to want to go back to that one, that we are in a unique position in our history right now. When we think about the journey to freedom and where we get to move based on where we came from, we have more opportunities than we've ever had. We have more abilities than we ever had. And yet we seem to be, as a whole, people are still talking as if that we're lost or something. We're in this election cycle. So for those, if you're watching this in 2027 or 2028 or something, we are 2 weeks away from a presidential election. None of us know what's going to happen. We have the opportunity where there would be the first woman president ever, and she was a woman of color. And we have a gentleman named Donald Trump who has been a president before. And you probably know it about your history wherever you're at in it. But so far, what I keep hearing when I turn the television on, Stanford, you're at a TV station, so you might hear a lot of this, is that Black men don't know where to go. They're not sure where they can vote, how they're going to vote, and they're moving from one side to another, and they're trying to figure this out, and they're lost. And what I'm here to tell you is, we're not lost. We know it exactly.
We're far from being lost. I think it all falls back there again on resources. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It all falls back on resources. And that's just my opinion, because the resources are there. But if you don't know where to go and get these resources, you know what I mean? Then you are in limbo. You are stuck. You are spinning your wheels, and you're trying to figure out exactly which way to go. The resources are there.
The resources are there. I think that one of the things that, they're putting words, a lot of the news are putting kind of some of the words in a lot of our mouths about, why we're doing the things that we're doing. And this is why we're doing it, because, we are sick and tired, or, we're not able to access stuff, like you said. And a lot of it is we haven't been able to. A lot of it is we haven't had the opportunities to. And now as we're getting opportunities, it's as if, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Steph, that as if we're a monolith, like we're all from the same part of the country, all grew up with the same families, all have the same experiences, all, and I grew up in Colorado, and it's pretty different than if I would have grown up in Michigan or grown up in Maine or even in the South. I've only been to the South a few times in my life. I spent 25 years on the West Coast in California, which is way different than when I go to New York. And the people and the things that we have and the thing that we have access to is so much different. And, I think a lot of us want to take care of our families. We want to make sure that, our kids, we want to be great husbands. We want to be, we want to have great jobs. If we have jobs that we love being at, that we love getting up in the morning and we love going to, we want to have businesses that are enhancing others. We want to be leaders and pillars in our community. Those are the common things. right? That we need to do.
And let me jump in here real quick. One of the big words that you used was access. You know what I mean? I don't have to own a boat, but if I have a friend that has a boat, then I have access. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Just the same as an airplane. If I have a friend that owns these things, then I have access. But if the access, and again, the resources are hidden or kept from us, that makes a very big difference. You know what I mean? It makes a very big difference. And I don't care who you are, be it black or white, because there are some of our counterparts, that are seen just as us. The only thing that separates us is economics.
And that is the equalizer that sometimes we don't get to talk about all the time. Is it's more social economic than
Absolutely.
sometimes it is race. Now I think we have, we don't have as much access that we used to have, and we do, I think we have more access than we used to have, but in some circles we don't. Like when I think of when the stories I hear, because I wasn't alive in the 30s and the 40s and 50s,
Right.
and so, but they said when there was a lot of segregation, we had communities that took care of each other. We had schools where we made sure that everybody in the neighborhood knew how to read and how to write and how to, our test scores were a lot higher. And then
Right.
we started pulling the men out of the family. We started, segregating into schools. We went to
Yeah.
schools where the white teachers, if we were sent and bused to a white school, they believed we were inferior and then didn't give us access to be able to
Right.
do some of the learning that we did. And then so we almost went backwards a little bit before we could move forward.
Well, you know
It's
what? Even with that, it goes back just a little bit deeper, especially when you're talking about denying access to this and that. The slave master, he said, teach him everything, but don't teach him how to read.
Yes.
Teach him everything, but don't teach him how to read. And so, since that was one of the things that was kept from us, learning how to read, we didn't learn how to read about ourselves. I couldn't go and research myself, research my history. So, because if I don't know it here, then I can't bring it forward here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't bring it forward there. So it's just one of those practices that they like I've heard all my life. If you want to keep it from them, put it in a book.
Put it in a book. Absolutely.
Put it in a book.
So you think about Frederick Douglass, right? So Frederick Douglass, at an early age, his his owner's wife were teaching him and other kids how to read, and then
Right.
the not the wife but the slave owner said, "What are you doing?" And he scolded her and says, "You will never ever teach them how to read, because if you teach them how to read, then they will know that they don't want to be here anymore. That
And
they're
if you think
going to have a way to be able to do it." And so what he
absolutely
realized at a young age is that if this is something that they want to keep me from, it must be the most important thing that I could possibly do. And he
exactly.
started figuring out how to read every single piece of paper that came in. He taught himself how to read. He traded some of his stuff that he would get on the plantation for
Right.
books
Right.
and literature, because he realized if I knew how to read, then life changes. And I think that's a lot of the things that we're dealing with now is, if we learn about economics and we learn about all that, we're going to be super wealthy, right? If we learn
Exactly.
about our education, we're going to be super smart. We're going to take advantage of everything that we get access to. And so the Journey to Freedom program, and I'm glad we're able to talk about this a little bit here, is about that. It's like, how do we get to that freedom and what freedom means to us? I have my goal is, how do I help people to become the person that they need to be in order to do the thing that God put them on this earth to do? And
Right.
so there are steps and things and culture things that may have not been taught, but if I can get you to that point, I might not be the Tony Robbins of the world that I'm getting you to buy a motivational thing that will help you get to those steps. And I'm not saying those things are great, but if you're not
Right.
ready to get there, you'll show up and spend a whole bunch of money, right? And then you won't you'll fail. Because
Walk
if you
away
don't,
with the use.
yeah. So So that is kind of the goal here. And so we got into a great start here, and I love the fact that we got to do that. So, but I asked Stanford at the beginning of the show. I told him, I said, I want you to tell your story, because what I realized, the more we know about the other folks who are doing things, the better, the greater our belief is that we can make it happen. The great,
Right.
if I get to talk to a whole bunch of millionaires, and I realize they're not that much different than me, then the chance
Right.
of me becoming a millionaire is that much better. If
Absolutely.
I know a whole bunch
Absolutely.
of people who have great marriages and I don't, but I start having those conversations with them
Mhm.
and I see what they're doing and I start duplicating something they do, I get to have a great marriage.
Exactly.
If I want to be a great dad and I didn't have a dad growing up, but I get to see a whole bunch of people and hear what they have to say about
Mhm.
what it took them to become a dad,
Yeah.
then I get to be a better dad. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, go ahead.
It's, it's very hard for any individual, especially a man, to adapt and reflect something he's not experienced. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
especially if I don't have identity of self, you know what I mean? It's very hard. I mean, you spend a lifetime chasing something that you have no knowledge of. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It really is.
Yeah, and we need to crave good associations and good
Absolutely.
relationships, and sometimes that's hard to define because if all we know is, I liken it to, as I'm trying to have different barbershop talks and different transformational talks,
Mhm.
there are some incredible barbershops that talk about some major issues, and then there's
Right.
those shops that all talk about, let's talk about how we shouldn't be treating women, or how,
Mhm.
or we talk about our favorite sports singer or our favorite at rapper. And I'm not saying that's bad, because they're
Right.
part of our culture and part of what we do, but if that's all we talk about,
But you
and
know
we
what?
live our dreams through them,
Right. Right.
and we don't get
And
any better.
right. And unfortunately, 95% of the time, the talk in those barbershops is the sports. You know what I mean? It's not how I can uplift you as a man, or how I can give you some insight, or I can share my experience. It's not that. It's about the sports. You know what I mean? And you leave all hyped up and ready for Sunday football, but yet still you go back to a house that's full of turmoil. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, and you think
So,
about it. I mean, and I watch football. I love football. I've been a football coach. I coach athletes that are in the
right.
NFL. So I understand football and I love it. But when I think about how people live their dreams through another man's dream,
Right.
as I'm watching Patrick Mahone yesterday, and then I see in the stands, they flip over, and all these people got Mahone on their back. He doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in his family. He's happy that they're there watching him, but they're living as if, well, Mahone did this, or Mahone said that, or he's this, or he's that, and they can tell
Mm-hmm.
you all the stats about Patrick Mahone, and you say, what grade did your daughter get on her science test last week?
Couldn't tell you.
On a science test? You know, you You know what I mean?
Oh
So you
man,
go, wait a minute. You know more
yeah.
about this guy who doesn't know anybody else, and your daughter is just like saying, I would love to have a dad who's here all the time. And what they don't realize, I've been talking about this, is if I get to be that dad for my daughter, I get so
Mm-hmm.
much more out of being her dad than I can
Absolutely.
ever get for any game. I could have season tickets and watch every single game.
And,
But that time I
and
get to
that
spend with my dad, yeah, yeah,
priceless.
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 And
Yes.
and don't realize if you start doing it, how much more priceless it is. Like you want to start spending time with her more than you want to spend time, watching the football game. And like I said, I'm not
Right.
saying anything wrong with the football. You just have to make sure there is, what are my priorities? So
Exactly. Exactly.
with that said, Mr. Stanford,
Okay.
tell us about you. Tell us about where you grew up and the things you do. We're gonna keep going, but I want to know a
Okay.
little bit about you here.
Okay. As you said, my name is Stanford, but I actually go by Celebrity Chef Stanford. Um, I'm from the streets, man. I hide nothing. I'm from the streets. I grew up on the streets of Charlotte, or West Boulevard. West Boulevard back in the day, where as to where you could see life come and go. You know what I mean? A lot of people say, "Well, where are you from?" I say, "Well, I'm from the West Side." I say, "Well, what West Side?" They say, "Well, Hardin High School." I said, "That's not the West Side. The West Side is where you actually saw life come and go, where you had to fight your way through." Um, the West Side was so bad at one time that the police department would tell you, if someone got hurt in the neighborhood, bring them out. We're not coming in. You know what I mean? Yeah, the ambulance wouldn't go in because they would get jacked for the ambulance. You know what I mean? So I come up on the streets, man. You know, and like I said, I hold no punches about it. I was your corner boy with my duffel bag. I did my thing, but I found a new passion, and that passion was cooking, man. I every Sunday it was mandatory that the family go over to my grandmother's house and have Sunday dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look back and see what that meant for the family and what she instilled in the family, the movie Soul Food fell short, man. They should have interviewed my grandmother. You know what I mean? I mean, she was just that strong. When she died, she was just that strong. When she died, the neighborhood died. They began boarding up the neighborhood. But the beautiful thing that I took away from that is that it was her love of feeding people, not just family. You could knock on her back door. It was Bessie Barnett. You can knock on Bessie's back door at any time of the day, and she knew what that meant. With no questions asked, she'll get up and fix, if it's 1, 5, or 10, she'll get up and she'll fix you a full course meal. And while you were eating that full course meal, she's fixing you a to-go bag. You know what I mean? So it was the love of feeding people, and she saw how they brought people together. So growing up with that, I began sitting on the other end of the counter, just watching her cook and do her thing. She had arthritis real bad, and when she would pick up, she would pinch in this form right here. She would release one finger at a time, and I kept watching that. She thought she was sneaky, but I picked up on it. What she was doing, she was actually measuring what was left in her. Yeah, what was left in her hand, she threw it away. At the end of that, you didn't have to add anything or take it away from it, man. I'm gonna tell you, it was just right. So with that being said, man, I learned how to not only cook but learn how to feed people and feed people with love, man. So I've always been cooking, but as a chef, it happened as a fluke. I was on Facebook one night because I couldn't sleep, and I started cooking. All of a sudden, a friend said, "Hey, are you chefing now?" I said, "Absolutely," because I'm a quick thinker. She said, "Absolutely." I said, "Well, she said, well, what's the name of your show?" Oh, I said, "It's Cooking with Stanford, a plate of one, dinner for two, date night." She said, "I love the tag." She said, "But what's your hook?" I said, "Oh, I'm bringing the romance back into the kitchen, back into the relationship by way of the kitchen." You know what I mean? So I put my grandmother in there, and pretty soon it just stuck, and then the phone started ringing for some of the higher up. Some of the celebrities start calling me, and so now here it is, Celebrity Chef Stanford. But if you notice, I'm here at the TV station with my security uniform on. I'm smart about that aspect too. Here at the TV station, I have access to every major producer. Why not step in their shoes? Because now I have access to be able to pick up the phone and call. You know what I mean? And get this interview. So it all works hand in hand. So yeah, man, like I said, my thing now, I'm traveling all across the country, East Coast, West Coast, in and out of the country. As a matter of fact, just last year, of all the millions and millions of chefs in the world, I was one of the few chefs that was chosen to go and cook at the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Nice.
man. Yeah. I cooked for Emmett Smith. Was it Floyd Mayweather, Jim McMahon? Oh wow, who else? Oh wow. So many other people that I cooked for in one night, going from box to box to box, private boxes, looking for them, just sharing my skills, man. It was an amazing event, and just a week and a half ago, the phone rang again. I got invited back to the Super Bowl again to cook this Super Bowl coming up, so it's gonna be amazing, man.
Gotcha. What's your favorite thing to cook? What is your specialty?
Oh man, I would have to say a crown roast.
Okay.
A
Okay.
crown roast, yeah. A lot of people say crown roast, yeah. It's actually when you take the rack of ribs and you invert it. So when it's cooking, the bones itself actually spur out and give you the mind image of a crown. And it's
Hmm.
nice, man. Yeah, providing it's done right, trust
Mhm.
me. I don't care who it is, they're gonna enjoy it.
Oh my gosh! It sounds like you said. It sounds so good.
Yeah,
Good,
man.
good,
Plus, I
good.
top it off with my barbecue sauce, which I now have my own barbecue sauce that's out. The original, thank you, I appreciate that. The original sweet and tangy. It is now in circulation through all of South Carolina. And very shortly, it'll be on Amazon International. So people will go on international and order Celebrity Chef Stanford, the original sweet and tangy barbecue sauce, along with my spices. So it's all good. It's all working hand in hand.
So it's not mustard based, is it?
Man, let me tell you, I got that answer. I have a mustard and vinegar base.
Okay.
Okay,
I
a
can do the
mustard and
vinegar
vinegar
base,
base.
but mustard, I'm not into mustard. I mean, I'll taste it, but so far, mustard and me have not mixed in my history. Now, so I feel like I live in Denver, so I've that's
Okay,
where I grew up here in Denver, and but I go to church at the Ballantyne campus of Elevation Church, right?
okay,
Um, and so, obviously, I don't fly there every week. I go there online, and then I do some stuff, so I get to get out there to Charlotte all the time. But the pastor Furtick keeps talking about he loved mustard based barbecue. But so I
mm-hmm.
got to get it. If you got something there, then I'll make sure I get it to him, and then because it's a fairly large church. I think we got like I don't know, like 30,000 people a week or something like that.
I know Stephen Furtick. I tune into him quite a bit, but
Oh, do
I
you?
want to. Oh yeah, I want to convert you over. I need to get that address because I need to get this barbecue sauce in your hand. Okay,
Okay.
listen, I'm not bragging, but I am saying
All
I
right.
will convert you over. I will convert you over. Absolutely.
If you could convert, because I've been known to like go to a hamburger place like McDonald's and they
Right,
accidentally put mustard on my hamburger and it ends up in the street. That's what I feel about mustard. It's
I
just something I've hated all my life, but I think the closest I can get to even just having a little bit is in barbecue. But if you have the best barbecue sauce, man, I'll try
man,
it.
listen. Do you remember back in the day the Regis and Kelly show?
I do. Yes.
Do you remember the Regis and Kathy show?
Regis and Kathy Lee, right? That's yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
My barbecue sauce was featured on the show, okay?
Oh,
Hands down, hands down,
okay.
I will convert you to my mustard. I
All
guarantee
right.
you.
All
And as
right.
a matter of fact, listen, and I want you to put me on blast. Put
Okay.
it on blast in one of your next segments and let me know.
All
Put me
right.
on blast. All right,
I
I
will
stand
do it.
behind it.
Well, just send me some vinegar base just in case.
I- that's
Oh
listen,
my gosh.
that's sweet baby Ray. I want to start you out right, okay?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
The so let's talk about identity a little bit. When we think about having a strong identity that believes in what
Mhm.
we do. And we have so many of our young brothers that or even older folks that think that they're not enough. Like whoever's life's been beating them down a little bit, and they have
Mhm.
this identity where they've kind of just been told all their lives that you just have to go to work, go to school, do the best you can, and then you're going to be all right. But there's
Mhm.
so much more in this journey that we can take advantage of, but our
Right.
identity doesn't allow us to do that. What are some things that you could point your life to, whether it was your grandma that you talked about or other people in your life or just things that enhanced your identity to the point you're like, hey, I'm going to cook for some celebrities,
Right.
you're that good, and then believe it, and then that perpetuates itself.
Well, I think one of the major things that sticks out, and I like to speak and use analogies a lot.
Okay.
I like to use the analogy of a wounded lion. When a lion, king of the jungle, when a lion has been wounded, there's just one or two things happen. Either he's ousted by the rest of the pride, or they rally around him and protect him and get him back to health as to where he could be of use to the pride. Unfortunately, what has happened in the Black community, instead of me rallying around you, I oust you. And not only do I oust you, I'm now looking at you, as a victim. I am now preying on you instead of lifting you up, gathering around you and building you back up to where you can stand on your own 2 feet. I think that's the biggest problem right there. I have issues. You have issues. Everybody have issues. But I think the main thing is that once the pride see that I have faltered, then I'm not of value to them. And since I'm not of value to them, they oust me. And when they oust me, I find love where I can. And 9 times out of 10, I find it in the wrong company, of companies that will accept me as I am and build me back up in the form after so much negativity, to the point as to what is positive and what is good. I can't identify the difference. And I stay on this side of the tracks as opposed to being where I really deserve and everything that I've earned, as the king that I am. I think that's one of the biggest thing it is. Instead of the pack rallied around them, they oust. You know what I mean?
They out. I hear you. And then that erodes trust, right? When we started ousting folks, and then it's hard to trust.
Absolutely.
Has there been some things you've been able to do in order to trust people? Because it's so sad when we start thinking about that, is instead of coming around, and maybe you have some ideas on how we can build each other up, but we got to start out with trust, I think. And so how do we build trust in our communities when so much has
Well,
been eroded?
I think one of the things is that we have to learn how to listen. Learn how to listen. Because you could tell me every day, all day, that I hurt your feelings. But if I'm not listening to what I did and how what I did affected you, then I'm just out there. Hear me. You know what I mean? Honest and true conversation, and just being transparent as men. Um, a lot of us act as though we have it all together, and we don't. We don't have it all together. And because I act as though I have it all together, I'm creating a falsehood, which let everybody else think that, well, hey, this guy's good, this guy's great. But when I get by myself, I have to deal with those demons. You know what I mean? I have to deal with the truth of what I put out. I have to do it with the falsehoods that I put out. And I think that ownership and being honest with oneself is one of the greatest ways to be honest with everybody else. I could throw up a red flag every day, all day, because the streets is there. The streets will allow me, because we always go back to what's familiar. And that's that comfort zone. And that's why a lot of us don't grow. We don't grow because we're afraid to step outside that comfort zone. And anything that's new that rattles that cage, listen, I don't want to deal with that, because right now that's posing an opportunity for me to have to, one, think for myself. Two, and it might cause a little bit of friction. Well, if it's causing friction, I don't want to do it. I want to stay with what's easy. Well, what's easy doesn't work. You know what I mean? It gets you no further in life, and it stunts you, the growth as a man, as a Black man. It stunts your growth. And you'll forever be in that mentality of the white man this, the white man that. You'll forever, because you'll see everybody, be also the partner in your group, be Black, you're still up under the thumb. You know what I mean? In some form or fashion, you're up under the thumb of everybody. So now it goes back to that word trust. I'm looking at you at the corner of my eye, vice versa. I don't trust you because you're not speaking my language. You know what I mean? And until, as my father used to say, until you get down to where the rubber meets the road, then you don't understand. You know what I mean? But when we start breaking away those different, better yet, shedding those different layers of skin, so to speak, then you don't see the real me. And I think transparency is one of the better ways and better places to start. Transparency started as to where and as to who I am as an individual, not as a team member, but as an individual.
Oh, I love that. I learned once, I think I might have been when I was starting in sales or something, and they told me there was a technique that you could use when you were trying to sell whatever the item was. What I realized, it was called feel, felt, found. And what I realized, especially in our culture, that can go beyond trying to sell something. It can go
Right.
into heavily into relationships. Like if I've been successful as a dad, and I believe I have 8 children that are doing really well, and 16 grandkids, and
Right.
I love
Congratulations.
them to death, and they love me. And so I think when we talk about success leaving clues, there's some clues in my life that I could tell a young 23-year-old, 24-year-old who's having their first kid. I've
Right.
done this before, right? So I know how you
Mhm.
feel. I felt the same way you do. This
Right.
is what I found that I can do. And my whole purpose is I'm trying to serve you and help you instead of what can I get from you? Or I
Mhm.
don't need that. I don't need to, well, they go to buy a car. Well, I know how to do that. Well, have you bought a car before? Well, no, you don't know how to buy a car. I'm telling you right now, you don't know. And I've had experience in the dealership, spending all night in the dealership with some bad credit and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I know the
Yeah.
process of what it takes to buy a car, right?
Yeah.
But this is
Hey,
what,
let me jump in
please,
because you
please.
just pricked something that I remember when I first got my driver's license way back at age 16. I went to the car lot and there was this old black car salesman. He was there. He says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Well, come on in the office." I went in the office. He sat down and he went to this fashion here.
Mm.
And I said to myself, "What's wrong with you?" He just looking at me. He did that for about 5 minutes. And then he looked at me. He says, "Do you know what's killing our young black men?" I'm like, "What does this have to do about me buying a car?" But he fed me in those 5 minutes. He says, "Wants, needs, and desire. You want this car, but do you really need it simply because your heart is in desire of it?" And I'm sitting there thinking, I want the car. But at the same time, it was sinking in. Long story short, I got back in my old raggedy car, I drove home, and I thought about it. This has
Mhm.
been over 40 something years ago, and I still remember that. Wants, needs, and desires. We have to prioritize, and put everything in order.
Mhm.
Do I want that girl simply because I need her, or do I need her because I want her? Simply because that's what my heart desires. You know what I mean?
So good.
So I just had to jump on that real quick.
No, I love that. I just, so I'm going to send you a copy of my book that's called "There Is No Tiger," which is about overthinking and overcoming overthinking and
Okay.
controlling anxiety. But I just finished my second book last week. It's in editing now. And it's called The Decision Formula. And the decision
Right.
formula, one of the things that I talk about is just what you're talking about, is the wants, needs, and desires. Because
Yeah.
I want the thing, but am I willing? Am I willing to take the journey that goes along with it? And then what's the cost? What is it
Right.
going
Right.
to cost me to be able to do it? And then do I have the disciplines, in your case, in the car, to take care of it? Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's
Mhm.
something I'm going to lose or I'm going to do. If I'm
Right.
deciding, if I want to be a world class swimmer, but I only want to go to the pool once a week, then I don't have the disciplines, and it's not going to happen, and it's a bad
Not,
decision, and I need to run away, right? But
yeah.
that all that goes into it, and so exactly what you're saying, needs, wants, and desire. So if we could teach that, right? This is what I found. I found that your wants and your needs and desires that you have might not be
Hmm.
the right timing. I'm not saying you're never going to own that Corvette or whatever it is that you're going to have. I'm just
Right.
saying it's not a need right now because you got
Exactly.
a baby at your house that you can't even get the car seat in the back seat anyways, and you got a responsibility making sure that baby's taken care of, right? Whatever it is,
Right.
think about that, right? This. I felt the same way too. I wanted that car so bad, but
Hmm.
this is what I found is those desires aren't something that I need to be able to delay gratification. Ooh, that's a hard
Yeah.
word. That's a hard word if you
Yeah.
you know when you really want something, because we're gonna get what we want, right? We're gonna find a way to get what we really want. But then what's that
Yeah.
cost? What's that cost? What are we giving
It
up?
cost,
Because
it
there's
cost
a cost to every decision, right?
it
I
costs
really,
everything.
I really want some mustard based barbecue sauce.
And I'm gonna make it happen. And I'm gonna make it happen.
Woo, I love it. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's going to be so fun. So I love where you're at. So when uh, talk to me about family. Like, what's the importance of the family unit? And when I think of family unit, especially in our culture, the family unit isn't just mom, dad, son and daughter. Our family
Right,
units have a lot of complexity. And for some of us, we were raised by grandmas, we were raised by the community, we were raised by every.
right.
But what is the importance of family? And then what do we do when some parts of our family aren't gelling with our goals, our dreams, our desires, the way that we have to do it? What is
Well,
our recourse?
I think family is for me. I'm speaking for me and me only. Uh, Family is everything. Family is everything. Like I said, my father, my grandfather, whom I never got a chance to meet, and I hate that. But I understand that my grandfather, he owned the very first Venetian blind company on the East Coast, and he built that Venetian blind company sweat and tears, and he built it, from what I understand, with family in mind, because he created something that not just the family but the whole world would need and use. So, with that being said, family is everything. The practice that he put together was that you build it. And I just say, if you build it, they will come. Well, he built a tight family. It was so tight that I don't care who you are, you're welcome to come and sit down at the table and eat.
Hmm.
But you will not sit down before my family sit down and get their first plate. Family meant everything to him. And my father passed that down to me and my brothers, and we stuck with that. My father used to have this saying that we came here together, we're going to stay together. And we stayed together by any means necessary, Malcolm X. We by any means necessary, whatever it took to keep that unit together, we're going to do it. If I have a resource that you need, then it's yours, and vice versa. I didn't hoard everything for myself. No, I made this, I gathered this. It was about the family, because you're only strong as your weakest link. And if you are the weakest link, then again, with the pride of the lions, the family would rally around you. If you need this, the family makes sure you had it. If you were without that, the family makes sure that you got it. The family fed you almost like a main artery to make sure that you became strong as the rest of the unit. Family is very important.
Oh man, I so agree. If you end up, let's say you go to Thanksgiving dinner and the whole family's there.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving. It could be any dinner. It could just be Sunday afternoon dinner just because we want to.
Right, right.
Wherever we're at. But you have one family member who's always telling you, you're not going to make it. You can't do that. You're not, that one guy who's probably more jealous than anything because you're making stuff
Mhm.
happen and they're not, and
Right,
they're not doing what they're
right.
supposed to do. And you're doing it. So he's always putting you down. Is it okay not to spend a whole bunch of time with that family member for a while until
No,
you get to a certain spot?
no, it's not. No, it's
Okay.
not, because and the reason why I say that is because the proof is in the pudding. You know what I mean? A rich man is not going to allow you to hang around him and not give you access or help you to become rich. I can't get mad at that person for being a naysayer. I can't, because you know why? God didn't give him the vision; He gave it to me. You know what I mean? So I don't expect you or anybody else to see what God has given me. So I'll just continue to do me and hope that you see what's going for me. And a lot of people tell me, say, Stanford, you need to slow down. You need to do this and do that. I said, y'all don't know what He's shown me. I said, the visions that God has shown me. I said, He's not going to show it to me, dangle it in front of me, like that old apple in front of the horse, and not give it to me. You know, Visions are the previews of what is yet to come. So, with that being said, no, I'm gonna put him along whether he want to or not. Because I'm a real off on him. It's gonna be more painful for him than it is for me. Because again, I know what God has shown me and given me the ability and the talent to do. Because this cooking thing came easy, man. It did. Because I paid attention to my grandmother. You know what I mean? It came easy. So I whipped together a meal in no time. You know what I mean? Because the skills are there.
Mm-hmm.
But if that family member doesn't have the necessary skills that it takes to be as strong as everybody else, you're just gonna rally around them and show them some love. It's gonna be some tough love, but it's gonna be some love along the way. So yeah, man.
Yeah. So can you use what they're saying as fuel? How would you take what they're saying and use it as fuel to even prove them
Listen,
wrong or to move forward or whatever? Or you just let it rub off on them? What do you do?
I've, I've never taken you can't do this or it's not gonna happen. That's all fuel to me because when you say that, so now I got to prove you wrong. You know what I mean? So I'm just that cocky, and confidence. I'm just that
Okay.
confident in myself, to hey, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna prove you wrong. I'm not gonna rub it in your face, but I'm gonna let you see it. The best revenge on anything, anybody, is success.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best revenge. Success. Forget the naysayers. Love them by distance. Feed them with a long handled spoon because you can't bring everybody in too close. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't bring everybody in too close.
Absolutely. I mean, and and your family's included in that. If they're the family that it is, they're going to be your family. You don't get to choose your family. God chose your
Right.
family for you.
Exactly.
So you could choose who your friends are going to be and who those
Right.
associations
Right.
are going to be, but you can't choose your family. And so you just kind of you put them at a place where this is where we can have this relationship. We're going to still have it.
Absolutely.
I'm not ousting you. I'm not ousting you
Right.
out of the pride, but I'm also not putting you in my inner circle either. Not right now.
Listen, I have some family members that just last year invited us on a cruise. We've never gotten along, so now I'm saying to myself, "What's your motive?" They called me up and said, "Hey, we're going to do a family cruise. Would you like to go?" I said, "Yeah, we can go. We can take separate boats." You know, that's the best way I look at it. Listen, we can go side by side, side by side down through the ocean, but we got to take separate boats. You pull into the port, I'll pull into the port, but yeah.
Ooh. Hey, what's so funny about that is those cruise ships, some of them hold like 4,000 people. You won't ever even,
Yeah,
you talk about a separate 4,000 people boat. Ah,
separate boats, man, going down
oh,
the canal.
oh my gosh. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Let's talk about health for a minute. What are some of the things you're a cook? And so,
Yes.
you know
No, no,
how
no, no.
to,
I'm a
what?
chef.
I'm sorry. I forgive me because you
Yes,
are
sir. Yes, sir.
absolutely correct. 'Cause there is a big difference.
Yeah,
But
very big difference. Yes.
um, so you're a chef, and so
Uh-huh.
preparing healthy meals is probably something that has to at least go through your mind, especially if you're cooking for the prima donna celebrity type folks that have these special diets because they might be getting ready for a movie or a show or something like that.
Right.
That's important. So, but how important is figuring out our bodies and health, not only physically and what we put into them, but mentally as
Mm-hmm.
well. So we talk about our mental health. Give me just some tips on what does it take to be healthy.
You know what? It's very simple. It really is. Um, when we go back again, let's back up to history and our forefathers, our grandparents, and things like that. Uh, Slavery, we ate what was left over. Okay,
Yes, we did.
not healthy.
No.
But down through the years, we found this person called Grandma,
Mhm.
and Grandma fed us with love. And since Grandma fed us with love, she only wanted the best for us. And so the best for us was not what was left over, but what is present. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I can make a healthy meal out of some of the most unhealthiest thing is how you cook it.
Okay.
We're so used and so accustomed to fried. Everything has to be fried. Everything has to be fried. That's the killer. That's the killer. Everything does not have to be fried to be good. You know what I mean? We gotta get those vitamins in us. We've been pushed aside to think that this is the white man's food. The white man's no, it's not. It's not. When you decide to eat healthy, you're not eating for a taste. You're eating to survive. Because a lot of things that we put in our body takes longer to digest.
Yeah.
And the sitting there in our system, theoretically, is rotting. That's why when you go to the bathroom, that's why sometimes the odors are louder and sometimes they're mild.
Mm-hmm.
It's that when we put the wrong things in our bodies and our bodies are trying to digest it, it's rotting, and that's what it's doing. It's actually rotting in our. Yes, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you cook it, yeah, you chew it up, but it's sitting there. And then we have to use different medications to help us pass it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And after you think about it, in your own experience, if you have used those medications, after you've passed it, you feel lighter. Why do you feel lighter? Because that release, it's not in your system. And a lot of it is poison. A lot of it's poison, especially on how we fix it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things we could do as far as eating healthy. Being healthy in today's society is a very big issue. Very big issue.
Is there some things that we should never eat just because they're just that bad for us, and we should do like acquire taste for something?
Especially anything that says artificial. When you see when you start seeing all different ingredients and it says artificial this, artificial that, well, I want to question that. Well, if you've taken this out, what did you put in? For example, if you looked at the way they make artificial crab meat, if you watch the process of how they cook and make artificial, first of all, the pink that they use the pink comes from pig. Okay, it's the mixture of leftover from the pig. Then they put a dye in it. How many yellow dyes? Look at the numbers. It's so many unhealthy things that go into making something like that people enjoy. Well, you can't afford real crab meat, but let me get the artificial. Spend the money and get the real crab meat because that artificial is tearing you up inside.
Oh, it's bad for you.
It's tearing you up.
Okay. Gotcha. Can you have healthy chitlins?
You know what? I'm going to have to say no.
Okay.
The only healthy chitlin you can have is the one that you don't eat.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, just think about it. There's a cleaning process. You have to clean it. But even after you clean it, it has still sat there and festered the whole life of the pig. Mm-hmm. So you're still taking in some of those, you know what I mean?
Oh,
you
yeah,
are.
No,
I get it. You're taking those in, and to disguise it, they say, well, let me put some hot sauce on it, let me put some red pepper flakes on it, some vinegar or whatnot. You can only disguise so much until you get that doctor's report. Yeah.
Well, and then I think, so for Black men, they're saying that our life expectancy is 72 years old. And the closer you get to it, the more you realize I'm just getting going. And to think that my body isn't going to work, or to think that I want to enjoy meals and the taste. My wife says that she lives to eat where I eat to live, right? Because I'm to the point where I'm saying, wait a minute, I don't want to put some of this stuff in my body because I want to live longer. And it's important to me when I think of how, my grandkids, right? I want to be able to hang out and play with them and do stuff with them. And it just takes a little bit of discipline to say, I don't have to eat this same food every day. If I have fried chicken once a year, I'm probably okay. But if I have in every Sunday, it's lard. Mm-hmm. Then at that point, now I'm putting that into my body, putting that poison in my body, right? And now I feel bad. You eat it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon after church. Mm-hmm. By 6 o'clock at night, you're like, oh,
Yeah, you're torn up inside. I remember a conversation my brother had with my dad. My brother was fussing at my father, and he's like, you can't keep eating all this mess. And my father said, my people have been eating this all their lives. Then my brother shut him up by saying, yeah, Dad, but all your people are dead.
Woo, woo, yes. Or they're dead
You
at
know,
72, or they got diabetes, or they're not enjoying life because they're sick. All these different
yeah,
things that
medication. Yeah, pumping you full of medications. Oh my God. I have a friend of mine. He's a very dear friend of mine, and the guy's telling me he's taking 25 pills a morning. 25 in the morning, 25 at night. The first 25 is to get him started. That's ridiculous, man. That's
your
ridiculous.
body's not working. Your body's just dying.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all our bodies are dying at some point, but it's not working
Yeah.
at all.
I mean, because even and I don't want to speak out against this. I'm gonna say it, Ozempic. A lot of people saying that it's good, but there's been a lot of studies that's come out that's shown that it is really tearing the body up, paralyzing your insides, your digestive tract. So your digestive tract is meant to move food along. If it's paralyzed, the food's not moving. If the food is not moving, the food is going back to what I said earlier. It's sitting there, it's festering, and it's rotting. People are dying of unnecessary causes. They really are. Yeah, man.
Well, and it affects our mental health, right? And we start thinking about
Absolutely.
mental health. What is your thought processes on what do we need to do to keep our minds as healthy as we're trying to keep our bodies?
As far as mental health, I'm gonna honestly go back and say, back in the day, they used to say, "What happens in his family, in his house, stays in the house." That's a bad practice, and it was a bad practice in the African American community. It's a bad practice because if I was molested as a child, which I was, if I don't talk about it, if I don't get the right counseling or support, then I myself, I keep that going on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I keep it. Nothing gets solved. Nothing gets talked about, and everything is wrong. Nothing gets talked about. Nothing gets solved, but everything is wrong because of that one incident. Mental health in the Black community is looked upon, especially Black men, is looked upon as being weak. If I show my vulnerability, if I show that side of me, the fellas are gonna oust me. If I share with my wife, she's gonna look at me differently. When in fact, it's the total opposite. It's the total opposite because now, I'm going back to my father again. The guy was a brilliant guy. He was something else, but he was brilliant. He used to always say, "Don't ever share your scars with someone who's not willing to share theirs." You know what I mean? Because I can tell you all day in, day out, what happened to me, what affected me, what I'm doing about it, why do I respond this way? But if you never said anything to me about what happened to you or why you do what you do,
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a tree. I don't know you, but you know everything about me. And that's ammunition. And that's why a lot of people, Black men, don't share for fear of being ousted, from fear of being ridiculed, the finger being pointed, and also looking weak. And it's just the opposite, man. Once I know for a fact, if you come to me and say, "Yo," because the Bible says, if you have aught against your brother, then go to him. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if I come to you and I say, "Listen, man, this happened to me, and I need to talk to you," if not you, somebody. And if I'm not afforded that avenue to be able to talk to someone or release that, then I harbor that as a young man, as a grown man, as a bitter old man, almost to say mean and surly, because now what happened to me as a child never got dealt with. What happened to me as a young man never got talked about. And as an old man, I have no solutions. I have lived my life, gone on with all of this going on inside me. And you know what is yourself that anything you put a pot on the stove, if it's boiling long enough, it's going to come to a head. Once it comes to a head, it's over. And 9 times out of 10, when it comes to head, it's that young black man going out committing the crime because he saw no way out, because he's frustrated with life. No one heard him. No one got to feel him as an individual. No one gave that brother a hug. You know what I mean? No one say, listen, man, I feel you. Listen, I'm sorry this happened. What can I do? And for fear of being ousted, I won't share with you. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and that healing process needs to happen. When I was working in homeless services and I was running a couple homeless service organizations, when I look at per capita, black men were the number one folks that are homeless. And
Absolutely.
a lot of it is mental health, and almost all of it could have been avoided. It could have been relationships. It could have been avoided by somebody caring. It could have been avoided. But now it's year after year after year of trying to deal, whether it's trauma or whether it's just, bad situations and making some bad decisions. And there's nobody there to say, okay, you made a bad decision. You might have even made a stupid decision, but God can use stupid, right? God can use it and make it to be great. And we all made pretty bad.
Yeah. I put my on the front. Look at me, man. I've done some of the most stupidest things. But I learned later on that he's always had his hand on me. You know what I mean? He's always had his hands on me, man. And so I go to bed every night and be thankful. Thankful because I've had the gun pointed at me. You know what I mean? And it never went off. Been in the gunfight and never got shot. It's crazy. Been there, got a T-shirt.
What? There's some themes that continue to happen as I'm having these conversations with my 100 black men this year. And one of the themes that keeps coming up is all of the folks that had gun pointed at them at some point. I'm like, how? It's just amazing to me that so many of us have been in situations where it was life or death. And when I talk to my friends and my counterpoints that are in, from the, my white friends and stuff, they talk about we went hunting, but they don't talk about the fact that their lives could have been in jeopardy. And that's things that we should continue to have conversations about, because for some of us, that's somebody could have taken my life, and without, if you're living with that.
And vice versa, I could have taken.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so you start thinking about, oh my gosh, if that's part of the experience, then that's part of something that we have to get into rooms where we get to talk and just talk, and just to be able to say some of those things or out loud. Yes, this has happened to me before, and it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't great, but this is how I responded. And for some people, they didn't respond great. And for some people, they did, and they can take solace and say, oh my God, you did that you were able to do that. Is there something, because we have been having a ball, and we're going to do this again, but is there something that I didn't talk about that you wanted to make sure you let everybody know before we finish our conversation here today?
Yeah, I think we touched on it very briefly, but I wanted to go back to trauma.
Okay.
Because a lot of people don't understand that trauma is anything that triggers an emotional event that happened to you. You know what I mean? Because what triggers you might not trigger me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you have dealt with or gone through as a child, and not necessarily as a child, but as an adult. A lot of people, I hear the stories about on how he abused her, but very seldom do you hear the stories about how she abused him. You know what I mean? Men get a victim of abuse as well, which causes trauma. I have to be honest with you again, because before I point the finger at anybody else, I'm going to point it back at me. Like I said earlier on, as a child, I was molested as a child, and it allowed me the opportunity to see and understand that when a woman says she's been violated, I get it.
You get it. Yeah.
I truly get it. You know what I mean? Because for someone to betray that trust and then make you perform or do this, that, and the third, and you have no knowledge of, you now are at a standoff towards anybody. And I'm honest, and you know what? A lot of men say, "Man, you crazy," but I can count the women I've been with on one hand, brother. All because of that violation. Because everything past that point was on me. I chose to let you in. I chose to hold your hand. I chose to give you a kiss, or I chose to sleep with you. And if I didn't, then I didn't. Everything was on me. You know what I mean? So trauma, you know what I mean? That a lot of us sustain and we hold on to because we don't know, one, that word you used earlier, trust. We don't know who we can trust with this information. Because if I tell you that this happened, are you going to use it against me?
Yeah.
Are you going to look at me in a way differently? Or are you going to treat me exactly weak? Exactly. So now there again, I'm standing on the outside with my defense, not trusting nobody and not moving forward in life and not getting the help I need, but exploding at every opportunity I get because of the trauma, unfortunately.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That is huge. I think it's gonna help people who have been through that. You do need to talk to somebody. It isn't
Yes.
this isn't something that you're stronger because you held it in, or
Mm-hmm.
you're a better person because you didn't. No, this is something that you need to work through and get through and
Exactly.
understand that you're not alone. You
Right.
this isn't because of something you did. It isn't
Mm-hmm.
because of something it was because of the person or that bad person who caused it. That's
Exactly.
where that isn't it wasn't your fault. It's
Mm-hmm.
their
Exactly.
problem that they did it. And so understanding that is so important. Oh, Stanford, thank you for being part of the
Oh man,
broadcast.
thank you for
Thank you
having me,
for
man.
yeah. It's such a good time talking
Absolutely.
about it. If you haven't subscribed and you haven't hit the bells, make sure you do that. These are such important conversations that we're having.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to end here. Part of the journey to freedom is figuring out how we're going to get together and start doing some transformational groups, putting you in smaller groups, doing barbershop talks with purpose that have stuff where you as a man can excel. Because it's
And you
so
know what?
sad if you're not able to become the person you need to be. What are you going to say?
I want to share this with you, and then I'll let you go.
No.
Quite a few of my friends and I, we got together. We had a discussion one night, and at the end of the night, it says, write down your biggest thought, what you took from tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with the idea of an intimate conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The intimate conversation would involve a man
Mm-hmm.
and his wife or his significant other.
Mm-hmm.
But the room would consist of 100 couples sitting at dinner. But in the middle of the room was one microphone. That microphone was open to one person. And it was open to every man at each one of the 100 tables. And that man got a chance to get up, get on the mic, and just talk to his woman.
Mm-hmm.
And when talking, the lights dim, the spotlight hits him, hits her. And now it becomes an intimate conversation of a room of 100 different couples, but he's talking to her.
Wow.
And he's giving her the opportunity to hear him say, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've not been whom I know I could have been. I've done this, I've done that. I'm wrong. And it's just the two of them. And if she chooses to get on the mic, she does. But the microphone is meant just for him. And that's why it's called an intimate conversation, because when the lights go down, it's just me and you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get to share my heart. And one of the hardest things for a man to do is to share his heart for
Yeah.
fear that it might be turned against him.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can just get that one opportunity to share my heart with you and talk about one, the wrongs, the rights, what I want to do better, how I want to achieve that, and how I want you as my partner to be a part of that. Man, that's growth. That's growth, man. That's growth.
That's
you
huge.
know. Plus, they get a beautiful dinner. Plus, they get a wonderful dinner prepared by Chef Stanford.
I love it, love it, love it. No, what a vision! I love that vision. We got to figure out how to make that happen because I think that
Hey,
would
listen,
be so powerful.
I would love to partner with you on that. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. We'll
Intimate
be talking
conversation.
again. I
All
love it.
right, that'll work.
All right. Well, again, thank you for being part of this Journey to Freedom podcast. As you can tell, we're going to be doing some more stuff. Stanford, you have been amazing. Make sure that we get together. You guys listen to this. Share this with somebody else. If this episode touched your heart, if this episode was something that you said, I know that person who could benefit from it. This is your chance. This isn't one of those things where you're trying to speak for somebody else. I'm not telling you can't make somebody listen. You're not going to tie them to the chair and open their eyes and they can watch it. But share it with them because you know it might help. And say, hey, I heard this today. I think it might be something to help you. You should take a listen. Because we did it so that we can come together as a community, so that we can help people become the people they need to be in order to do the thing that their God put them on this earth to do. And so again, thank you for being part of it. Don't forget that you are God's greatest gift and he loves you if you allow him to. And we'll look forward to talking to you on the next one. Thank you, Stanford. I sure appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right.